Photographer of the Year. Let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Courage in my veins, running uphill, a wildfire heart that never stays still. I was born with a spark my daddy couldn't kill.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast, where today it's a solo episode. Today we are talking all things Tampa Bay Open. We are now weeks away from the first event of the 2026 NXL season. And honestly, this event has potential to be one of the greatest events of all time. And I know as soon as I said that, people are probably like thinking, well, what about Huntington Beach? And you're probably thinking about a bunch of other events that have been epic over the years. But just the thought of being able to have an event in paintball, in professional paintball, that is going to be in the conversation of one of the best events of all time is massive, right? I think we've been, we haven't had this type of conversation for a few years. You know, we had, I think some of the biggest events, obviously everyone always looks to Huntington Beach, you know, way back when, was one of the greatest events of all time. And then we had a little bit of a lull. And then in the early, 2000s, paintball was booming again. And we had a stint where paintball was on ESPN. And I think that's where, Oliver went on the run and had the crazy moves playing in the 7-man series. And then we went through a lull again. And it seems like the past few years, we're starting to pick up steam as a sport and really propelling us in the direction where obviously everybody wants to go by growing the game. And so now that we're inside the final countdown to the Tampa Bay Open, these past few weeks have been pretty amazing for the media inside of paintball. Like some of the top creators in the game. We've seen a lot of, I guess, what I would call first time or a lot of first for us. A few weeks ago at this point, Tom Cole and his staff sent out an email to some of the bigger personalities in paintball, folks that had a large platform, where they could communicate directly with you, some of the paintball audience, and they held a press conference. It was the first, I think, from what I've researched, the first closed door press conference, right? And for anyone that is a sports fan outside of paintball, press conferences happen. It's the norm, right? Whether you're a football, basketball, baseball, soccer fan, press conferences happen all the time to announce sponsorships, to announce, where the next seasons are going to be, player movement, coaches movement. And so I hope that sinks in, just the fact that we're doing a press conference and we're having the thought to involve media to let them know what's going on is a huge step in the right direction. Hey, super quick, before we go any deeper into this podcast, I've got to give a huge shout out to two of my show sponsors. First and foremost, ProDNA. Man, this past weekend, I was at my field and I got to finally test out their new hyper light joggers. And these things are incredible. So the nice thing about these, they're super lightweight. They've got YKK zippers. They've got a waistband on here that is super expandable. And the material, super stretchy. And the nice thing about this, if you end up deciding to be a ProDNA sponsor team, you can actually do custom pants. So it's pretty awesome to see my logo, Shellda Photos, along with the ProDNA branding on these. These pants are something I am so excited to wear this year. Here's a nice thing that not a lot of paintball companies do. So these pants, if you can see it, they actually have two different pockets. So they've got the one that has the YKK zippers, but then they also have pockets right here as well. So on the front of the pants, you've got two sets of pockets. I'm a guy, you give me more pockets, I'm gonna fill it with stuff. So huge shout out to ProDNA. If you wanna grab a pair of these pants for the upcoming season, head over to prodna.com. Use my code ShelldaPhotos for 10% off at checkout. And then secondly, I have to give a massive shout out to bfpgear.com. They have been absolutely crushing the game. Every single time I'm on their website, I just see new products that are hitting their website that are literally in stock, ready to order. And when I was on there earlier, I just noticed they had the new Powerhouse counterpunch regulators, and they've got them in 3 different colors. My favorite one is this acid wash. This would look pretty sweet with depending on what you have. Maybe it's a black marker, maybe it's a gold marker, but you can customize these. Black and silver, black and red, and they're only $179. So if you want one of the best regulators in the game, head over to bfpgear.com, grab yours while you can, and they're guaranteed to ship out within 24 hours, sometimes the same day. Okay, thanks to my sponsors, and back to the episode. Enjoy. And so, yeah, it was about a few weeks ago. I'll pull it up here if you're watching on YouTube. I just grabbed a screenshot of the press conference, and as we can see just by quickly looking at it, we had some of the top people, the top creators in paintball. We had Ryan Gray up there from the Coaches Show, Christian from In the Pits podcast. Verbal obviously has a massive audience. Matty Marshall was there, so he could do some of his homework for his live show. Tyler and Marcelo were both here from Play the Game. And then, of course, Brad from Paintball Ruined My Life. And so now we have 10, 15 creators that have massive audiences where we can then go back and help drive engagement and really hype up this event, which is amazing. So it was such a big step in the right direction. It legitimizes the sport in a really small sense. And I think from what I heard and my takeaways from the press conferences, it sounds like Tom and his staff are going to start to try to do this on a regular cadence leading into events. That way we know what's happening, so we can then go back and tell our audiences what's going on and really help drive up some interest going into these events. And one of the big things that I took away from this event that really made me appreciate the work that Tom and his league do and his staff does is it was literally a roundtable of let's talk ideas and let's see what the best plan of action is. And so that's a pro and con, right? And I'll touch on both of that. But the pro side of that is Tom shared his marketing plan or maybe lack thereof going into this event. And it created such an amazing conversation from the different folks in the room of ideas that the league hadn't even thought of, right? We're obviously going to be in Tampa. We're going to be at the Raymond James Stadium. So being inside of an NFL stadium is going to be so cool for pictures and reels, and we're going to create a lot of really cool content from it. But that doesn't matter if you don't get people inside of the stadium, right? Obviously, all of us listening, if you're going to Tampa, we're going to show up, we're going to be there, we're going to support it. But we need to get other people that are new to the sport or maybe interested in it into that stadium. And so some of the conversations were bringing up ideas of why don't we try to tap into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, right? Anyone that lives near a major city or lives near a large sports stadium, you have a lot of season ticket holders that are usually within an hour or 2 hour range that are loyalists. They're super dedicated to the team. And any opportunity they can get to step foot inside of that stadium, they're going to take that. And so that was one of the ideas that we had tossed around is to have the league go into Facebook and search out different Facebook groups that are the Tampa Bay faithful, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers loyal fans, the diehard fans, the fans that will do literally anything to get inside of that stadium, and to advertise this event in a way where, hey, do you want to watch a free event inside of your team's stadium? Like, that's a huge win. And so that was one of the ideas that came up from us being in that room and having that open dialogue within the media is really doing some grassroots marketing with the local people of Tampa, right? The local residents, where you've got fans of the sport that will do anything to get into that stadium. And so, when you think about that, if that actually comes to light, that'll be a pretty cool picture of, you'll have the field, you'll have obviously the pirate ship in the background. I'm sure the Jumbotron will be on and hopefully have some type of paintball branding. But then to also see families that are also rocking, hopefully, paintball gear, but maybe they're showing up in their Tampa Bay Buccaneers jerseys. Maybe they're taking pictures. Maybe they're posting that stuff on Instagram or posting on social media. And so now we've got people that are not involved in paintball, but are pushing paintball content. That's going to be the goal if we can make that happen. So that was one of the huge takeaways from that press conference. And then the other piece, Tom rolled down the schedule for the day and the schedule for the weekend. And my goodness, that first Thursday where we are inside of the stadium, it might be the busiest single day in paintball history. I think games kick off first thing in the morning at 7 or 8 a.m. In the 3v3. And then that goes all day until I believe the Summit Awards happens inside of the stadium. And then once the Summit Awards are done, we roll right into the first few prelims of the actual event weekend. And so if I had to guess, the games are probably going to be from 7 or 8 in the morning to probably 10:30 at night. So it's going to be a pretty wild day. Now, with that, that obviously brings a lot of challenges, right? We have the NXL, as we all know, if you've been to an event, it's a moving circus, right? We have a open plot of land or a parking lot, whatever it is. And a week before, it's just that. There's no sign of paintball. We show up, we bring all of the fields, the tents, the nets, and we take it over for a week or so. And the reason why this is so special is the NXL has to plan essentially 2 events in one. So Thursday in itself is essentially a mini NXL event. And so there's so much logistics that are going to go on with that event. And when Tom was going down the list of it and how he was planning on showcasing it, I think the initial plan was to do, I think they said Thursday was going to be partially on YouTube for free and then partially on GoSports. And that really created some buzz. I think Marcelo may have chimed in about that. And then I chimed in and I said to Tom right off the bat, I said, Tom, this is the absolute wrong approach. I said, obviously it's important to have GoSports. It's important to have that paid subscriber be behind a paywall. That way we can have income coming in. However, if we're spending all this money to be inside of a stadium to capture an audience, we're not looking for the audience that is already paying GoSports. We're looking for the audience that is out there, that hasn't seen this sport yet, that can see what it's like. And so I really pushed him in that meeting to have the most of the day, if possible, if not the whole entire day, be live on YouTube, on the Major League Paintball's YouTube channel, right? Because now at that point, no matter who's watching, or maybe they're watching for some 3v3 games, maybe they're coming back for the Summit Awards, maybe they're coming back for the games at night, it doesn't matter. It's on YouTube, and now they can share that information. Obviously, with the games are going to look insanely epic, but we can't share that. We can't share that clip if it's behind a paywall on GoSports. And so, knowing that, there was a little bit of back and forth, and I stuck to my guns, and I said, Tom, if you've got an audience that is now in GoSports or on GoSports, and then for the second half, we're going to move to YouTube, you may, or vice versa, you may have some of that audience move over to that. But anytime you're trying to move an audience from one platform to another platform during a live event, you always have fall off. People are going to stop watching. They're going to lose interest just because they have to change the platform. And so I pushed really hard to just have YouTube. And I think from that conversation, majority, if not all of the games on on Thursday will be on YouTube from what I've heard. And then that also sparked a conversation, about the Summit Awards, right? I think the past few years they've done a great job with it. I don't know if anything is ever going to touch the first event when we were in Las Vegas in the Sahara, where we had, paintball was on at the time, the biggest screen in Las Vegas before the Sphere opened up. And that was such an epic time. Like that legitimized paintball. It was a red carpet event. People were dressed up in tuxedos and suits, and it was such a special time in paintball. We created a bunch of content from the league, but no one ever shared it. The league never shared it. They never put it out on social media. So really, no one knows about it unless you were a part of the few hundred people that were there. And so, Tom kept talking about how epic this is going to be and how epic the Summit Awards is going to be. I think I'll pull it up here in a second, but they're planning on having a walkway where the Summit Award winners are going to walk through this or on the stage. Kind of this walkway sounds like near the end zone. The pirate ship is going to be in the background. The Jumbotron's in the background. And he kept talking about how epic it's going to be. And so a few of us in the room, stopped him again and said, "Hey, that sounds great." But it's like, I always equate it. It's like if you put a billboard at the end of a dead end road, no one's ever going to see it unless you turn down that road. Right. And so we can have this epic stadium, we could have this epic venue, but it doesn't matter if we don't create and share that content. And so I think he heard that, right? And so part of going into this event, I have the map up here. We should see more content being created around the event, around the Summit Awards, around some of the pieces that really legitimize the sport and really can help take us to the next event or take us to the next level. And so for those of you that are not watching on YouTube and you're just listening in, I just pulled up a overhead view of the Raymond James Stadium. And this is something that Tom and his crew shared out with everybody in the press conference. He shared his screen and walked us through this. And so on the left side, where it has the NXL tournament grounds, that's the normal NXL event that we're going to see all weekend, right? That's in the same exact spot that it was last year. And then if you were there, there's a street that separates us from the stadium. And then they actually have this set up really, really nicely. So fans are going to be entering in down here in the corner, which seems like it's a really popular place for NFL fans on Sundays to enter the stadium. And then they're going to walk through the concourse on the inside. And from what it sounds like, inside that concourse, they're going to have different vendors that are going to be open. We might see some different tables. So it's going to be pretty interactive from what it sounds like. They're going to have signage in there. And then it looks like over by the pirate ship, I think there's maybe 2, 3, or 4 sections are going to be sectioned off for fans. And so the goal is to really pack in that area. That way, for the photos and for media, it'll look like the fans are full in the background. And so it should be pretty epic. And, knowing how Marcelo's mind works, he actually asked a really thoughtful question. He said, "Hey, what happens if we end up having thousands of fans show up more than what we anticipate?" I guess Tom has already worked it out with the league, or if that happens, they already have contingency plans to open up more sections of the seating area inside the stadium. So it's going to be pretty epic. It sounds like it's going to be just a wild time. And I don't know, I don't think it's shown here, but from what I was told and what they said here, the Buccaneers, the right side of the end zone, it's going to be some type of really long walkway. And so for the when they transition to the Summit Awards, um, the whoever wins the Summit Award will walk along this walkway, and then when you get off of the stage, there's going to be some type of fan zone. It sounds like it's going to be almost like a I guess when they explained it, my mind went right to like a paparazzi, like you're walking through this group that's roped off of fans that'll be able to ask for autographs, take pictures. So it'll be a really cool experience. We suggested in that press conference that they also create a poster of all of the Summit Award winners. That way they can hand those out to people as they walk in, and to the people who want those autographs. They'll already be waiting in that fan zone. And so the players and personnel who win the Summit Awards, they can go over and sign those posters. So we gave so much feedback in that press conference. And I think it was one of the first times where the league was really open to hearing that and really starting to implement some of what we were saying. Now, it's all incredible, right? This is all amazing. This is great news. There is a flip side to that. So for those who have been following me on social media, on my Shellda Photos account, you know I've been getting into running the past few months. And a few weeks ago, I ran in the 5K portion of the Austin Marathon, and starting to kind of get immersed into that community a little bit. The Austin Marathon, if I step back and take the running portion out of it and just look at it from a marketing perspective, they clearly had been planning this for a year plus in terms of all of the marketing that they have been doing. They had email campaigns ready to go leading up to the event. They had Facebook ads, they had Instagram ads. It literally seemed like every day when I woke up, I had some type of new content about the race that I was participating in a different form, whether it was email, social, other people that were sharing it. It was collaborators, influencers. And so they had put so much time and energy into that event that it was incredible. You know, there were 30, 40,000 people, I think, that ran in that race. And so I say that because the Austin Marathon, the one event, obviously it's the Super Bowl here in Austin for the year, but they have a whole entire marketing team that is planning this for a year. And I think this is the part where I don't know how it changes, but we really need to do a better job as the league. Is right now the marketing team for the league is one person. So that one person is responsible for all of the social media on all of the major league brands accounts. That person's responsible for all the breaking news, the player movement, coordinating media access to the pro field inside the stadium, doing all of the flyers, the banners, you name it. So right now that job falls on one person. And if you were any other company or any other sports organization or league, that would be a whole entire team of people. And so the fact that we have one person doing that role, it's just not sustainable. Something is always going to drop there. And then to add to that, while we had this press conference and it was amazing, it was a huge step in the right direction, it also happened way too late, right? We were, I think, maybe 40 days away from the event when we had this. This is something that should have happened months ago at this point, maybe even right after World Cup. That way we could give ideas, we could give feedback and suggestions. That way it gives the league and obviously that one person who is carrying the hat of 6 other people, give them time to really go build out the marketing strategy for this. And so I think that's one of the big takeaways for me that the league needs to do a better job of is if we have an event like this, the marketing side of it cannot be a last minute thing. It can't be something where we're a month away and it's, oh shit, what do we do now? How do we get people here? This is something we need to be hyping up and pushing and planning for months and months in advance, right? If we look at the NFL as a prime example, the Super Bowl this year wasn't even done yet, and they were already talking about next year's location and already talking about the logo reveal of it. And you're going to see that sprinkled throughout the year when you watch NFL games. They talk about the Super Bowl, the location of it. And so that's something that the NFL is obviously planning out years in advance. Of course, they have the budget to do so, but we've got to find a way to grow the marketing team for the league, because an event like what we're about to have in Tampa, it's got the potential to bring on a lot of eyeballs and a lot of other people into the sport, if we do it right. So yeah, these last few weeks have been really cool for the sport, a little bit more behind the scenes. But I'm so excited to go into Tampa. This off season has been so long. I feel like over the past, 4 years for me personally, this has been one of the longer off seasons for whatever reason. So I'm really excited to get back into the rhythm and see all of my media family and create some iconic moments hopefully at this event. Now for me personally, I've had some people reach out that have known my story a little bit, and I think they had read my book, Finding Me from Imposter to Icon, and they were asking me like, what does it mean for you to be going back there? And last year, when I went to Tampa for the first event of the year, it was such a surreal moment. I actually went back and I found a photo of a team that I played for. I think this was back in 2005, 2006, whenever the NXL at the time, it was the NPPL, when they had the first ever event at the Raymond James Stadium. Here, I'll pull this up here for folks that are watching on YouTube. But this is me on the left side with my teammates, and I can't even remember any of these guys' names anymore. But we took a team photo there. And so this was the first time I had ever played in a national event, outside of my local events in Connecticut, playing out of Matt's Outback Paintball. And so this was such a special moment for me. And last year when I went there, I really wanted to go back to that spot and get as close as I could and recreate the same picture. And so where I stood exactly, 20 some odd years ago, I think it was roped off, so I couldn't stand in the same exact spot, but I got pretty damn close to it. And that was such a cool moment, just standing there and reflecting back on how much my life had changed, how I was a player 20 some odd years ago, just playing recreationally, leaving the sport and then coming back and finding the sport, and then now being on the pro field at the same spot where I was 20 years ago dreaming of. And so it was just such a cool moment. And when I think of this year, when I think of, what's it going to be like going back to Tampa, knowing the Summit Awards are inside of the stadium, knowing that I'm up for a handful of awards, man, it'll just be a chapter that I don't think I could have ever written, if I win any of the awards, to actually be inside of the stadium accepting an award will just be wild, right? Like, some people never are fortunate enough to, one, step inside of a NFL stadium, 2, step foot on the grass or the turf of an NFL stadium, and then 3, to win some type of award at that level and have your name or photo appear on like the Jumbotron. That'll just be a chapter of my life. That'll be something will be forever grateful for. So whatever happens, I can't wait. We're weeks away. Last thing I'll say is the NXL did a really cool thing this year with the 3v3 where they invited some other teams to participate in that event as well. So I know we've got some folks who are not necessarily in the pro division. We've got a local team here in Texas that plays out of Paintball Fit. Shoutout or Trying is the team name, and they're a part of that program. And so, I've got some friends who I have seen kind of grow up over the past few years, go from D5 to D4, and now they're playing in that line. And so for even those people that are going to get the opportunity to play in the pro 3v3 that may be ranked a little bit lower, that's just an opportunity they are forever going to be thankful for, and that's going to be a core memory for the rest of their life. So the league really did a great job there. So, I say all this I'm saying all this because if you are going to the event, please do everything you can to show up for the event on Thursday. It is shaping up to be an absolute epic day. If you see anything on social media, whether it's coming from the league, maybe your favorite player or team about the event, please share it wherever you can. Anytime we can get eyeballs on something like this, especially the Thursday portion of it, playing inside of an NFL stadium, that just legitimizes the sport for us. And if this does get traction and does start to grow a little bit, I could foresee the future of NXL being at NFL stadiums, right? It sounds so different from saying, oh, I'm going to a paintball event in Dallas. Well, it's not really in Dallas. It's in Garland, and it's at a park. That kind of loses its legitimacy versus if I say, hey, yeah, I'm going to a paintball event this weekend. Oh, it's at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium. It's actually inside of the stadium. That just adds a whole nother level of legitimacy for paintball. And so I really think if we do this event right, and us as fans and media of this do our part and share as much content as we can about it, this could potentially open the door for NXL events moving forward being inside or at NFL stadiums. So pretty awesome. If you are planning on going to the event, please drop a comment. Let me know down below if you're going to be there. We've got some absolutely epic games that are lined up for it. I think the 7:00 slot is Tampa Bay Damage versus, I think, Red Legion. And so, you want to talk about a primetime fight. That game is going to be insane. I can only imagine seeing, Alex Goldman Mouse fired up playing inside the stadium for the first time. He is going to be on a whole nother level for that. So I could see that match getting pretty intense. But yeah, I definitely cannot wait to be there. So if you're going, again, let me know in the comments below. And I know this is a little bit of a shorter episode this week, but I really wanted to emphasize the work that the league did. They didn't tell me to do this. This wasn't like a thing I had to do. I just thought I'd share a little behind the scenes of the work that they're doing with the press conference and helping try to grow this thing. And also there's still opportunities for us to get even better with this. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Shellda Podcast, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.